If you go on Jonathan's Instagram, you can see my boobs.
Yes!
What's that handle?
What is it?
Jonathan EQ.
Somebody on the street today said, "Show me your boobs." I was like, "You're
Right on.
I feel all pressured because nunchi is a Korean word, and if I fuck this story up, like, I will shame my entire country. They asked me to read here when they heard me read poetry, but a couple of weeks ago I was like, I quit poetry, I'm never reading it again. So they were like, are you still coming? So I'm reading something and then making stuff up. I'm chatting with my cousin Diane. She's that cousin that I grew up in love with. She's same age as my older brother, which is 4 years older than me. Now she's in Hawaii, where she's lived for the past 7 years, and she's teaching at the University of Hawaii. She's telling me that it's official. She's been given tenure. I'm happy for her. I ask her about her mom, how she's doing with the cancer. Okay, she says. Your dad? Okay, I tell her. And then I started remembering her voice when I was little. We were still in Korea. She used to make me sit still, but I kept wobbling. I had a hard time balancing, sitting on the floor because my head was super big. And she used to just make me sit there and put on all the makeup she stole from her mom on my face. And then she would say, your eyes are so tiny. Can you see my whole face or just my nose? And I would say, I can see everything. And then I started thinking about 2 ways my parents taught me when I was little. And one was, ever since we got to the US in 1980, on New Year's Day, my family, which is my older brother and I, and my parents, we would sit right after lunch and watch Godfather 1 and 2 straight. And my parents really would point out scenes and characters and say, you know, these are life lessons. We did this every year for about 15 years. My dad would lay on the couch, and my mom would squeeze in right at the end where there was a little space. My brother and I would sit on the floor. And whenever my dad talked about Fredo, I started thinking that if I fucked up, they would really send me out on a fishing trip. And it's like, kids, don't ever talk about the family outside. And then there was one scene they always pointed out, which is the part where, Vito is leaving this meeting with the others, and he said he didn't realize until that day it was Barzini all along. And I know there was something he says that gives it away, but my dad doesn't care what the movie actually said. He was saying, how did he know? And it was like a quiz. And we would have to say, it was the look in his eyes, it was the way he leaned in on the table, it was the way he was sitting smug. It was like, good, 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 good. So whenever you enter the room, you have to figure out everybody, what they're thinking. And this is the second thing. Ever since we were in Korea, which I left when I was 5, my parents wanted us to learn how to read a room whenever we walked in. So whenever we went over to my grandma's house to meet with the other relatives, if I walked in, happy, excited to see them, and there happened to be someone not so happy about something in the corner of the room, my dad would just smack me upside the head, like, what's the matter with you? I don't know what they're thinking, but this is sort of how he trained us. He said, just always know what everybody's feeling. And I thought for a while that this was something he was teaching about understanding others. But ultimately what it became was we got better at keeping secrets. So, it's last year. I've been trying to tell my parents something, but one time I went up to my parents' apartment, because they live in the same building as I do, to tell them that something that had happened between my wife and I sat down to tell my dad. I was like, "Dad, I have to tell you something." He said, "Let me tell you first. Oh, I have cancer." I was like, "Fuck!" Like, son of a bitch. He was like, "What is it?" I'm like, "Oh, nothing." He's like, "You have cancer, you win." So for the next 6 months, I couldn't tell him. And then I was like, okay, I gotta tell them now. So I went up. I was like, all right, guys, I gotta tell you something. My mom was like, "Oh, I'm going into surgery today. My eyes are messed up." Like, "What is it?" I'm like, like, "Nothing. I'm okay." But finally, late in the year, my mom got really mad and came to my apartment. We had just had lunch at their place. She pulled out some kimchi. She made some spinach soup with anchovy. And she pulled out these, my mom freezes white rice in portions in the freezer. And depending on how many people are at the table, she just pulls out however many, puts it in the microwave. We had lunch, it was quiet, we were just, we learned not to look at each other. It's almost like if we look at each other, we'll give it away. So we sort of eat, looking down at our bowl the whole time. So I leave after lunch. My mom comes to my apartment and says, "I gotta talk to you about something." I was like, "What?" Like, "When am I gonna get a grandkid?" Blah, 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 blah. I was like, "Mom, I can't have kids. This is what I've been trying to tell you for the past year." And she closed her eyes and put her hand on her head. And I don't know what I was feeling at that moment. Like whether I felt relief or angry that she hadn't guessed this earlier. That these people that had taught me I was supposed to know everything without asking had not known this about us. But just as my anger was rising, my mom said, "The doctor says I got 6 months." So I started thinking about when I was 5 years old, how my parents came to me and said, "We're moving to this country that nobody had heard of. That it was so secret, that's where the Nazis hid out. And it was so secret, even oceans couldn't touch it." My mom leaned in and said, we're moving. We're moving to this country called Paraguay. I was like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what another country is. I don't know what moving is. I hadn't started school yet. I didn't understand anything. And she said, "It's okay because one day we'll be in America." And none of that meant anything to me. And looking back now, I wonder if they ever imagined that the thing they couldn't see was they would leave everyone behind, move to a country in the middle of South America, make buttons for a living, come to the US, only to just fade away with nobody left behind. One day they'd be gone. They'd watch TV for a while, some pirated Korean dramas on computer. They'd be gone. Their 2 sons would also be gone. And that would be it. No more Choi's left in LA. And if they did picture this, why they ever chose that path? Why they brought us here? You know, today when I was flying here, I was trying to figure out how my parents feel right now. Whether they're proud that I'm traveling around reading stupid ass poems everywhere and stories and shit like that. Or whether my dad's actually happy that I could drink more than he ever did. And for the first time today, I imagined them 35 years ago, sitting there picturing a life where we spend everything we have until we have nothing left, and then just fade away. And for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace with it and happy, and I don't quite know why. Thank you.